Escaping shadows. The train to the small town of Bramble Creek slowed to a halt, its wheels squealing against the tracks as a quiet fog began to roll in. The town was nestled deep in the woods of Oregon, where the mist hung low, giving the air an eerie calm. Maya stepped off the train, her breath forming small clouds in the cool air. It felt good to be away from the noise of the city, from the endless reminders of the life she had once shared with Leah. The decision to leave was not easy, but the memories of Leah had become too suffocating. Maya couldn't run forever, but here, in this quiet, isolated town, she hoped she could finally find some peace. She rented a small cabin at the edge of town, a simple place with creaky wooden floors and a fireplace that rarely stayed lit. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Maya kept to herself for months, taking long walks through the woods and spending her evenings at a local cafe, trying to silence the echo of Leah's voice in her head. One evening, while Maya sat in the corner of the cafe, sketching aimlessly in her notebook, a woman walked in. Her eyes were immediately drawn to her. There was something familiar about the way she moved, something that reminded Maya of the woman she had loved and lost. The woman approached the counter, ordered a coffee, and glanced around the cafe, her gaze landing on Maya. Their eyes met for a brief moment before the woman smiled and walked over to her table. "Mind if I sit here?" she asked, her voice soft, laced with a hint of curiosity. Maya hesitated but then nodded. "Sure. Go ahead." The woman sat down and introduced herself. "I'm Eliza. I just moved here a couple of weeks ago." Maya managed a small smile. "Maya, I've been here a few months, just trying to find some quiet." Eliza looked around the nearly empty cafe, chuckling softly. "You came to the right place." They talked for a while, exchanging small details about their lives, their reasons for coming to Bramble Creek. Maya found herself relaxing in Eliza's presence. She was easy to talk to, and for the first time in months, Maya didn't feel the weight of Leah's memory pressing down on her. As the days passed, Eliza and Maya started spending more time together. They'd meet for coffee, take walks through the woods, or sit by the fire in Maya's cabin, talking late into the night. Maya found comfort in Eliza's company, but there was always a quiet voice in the back of her mind, whispering that she was betraying Leah's memory. One night, after a particularly long walk, they sat in front of the fire, the soft glow illuminating their faces. Eliza looked at Maya, her expression thoughtful. "You don't talk much about your past," Eliza said gently, "but I can tell there's something you're holding on to." Maya stared into the flames, the flickering light casting shadows on the walls. She had been running from it for so long, trying to bury the pain, but now it felt like she couldn't keep it hidden any longer. "There was someone I loved," Maya began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Her name was Leah. She was everything to me." Eliza remained quiet, waiting for Maya to continue. "We were together for years, but I pushed her away. I didn't mean to, but I was scared. Scared of how much I loved her, scared of what that love meant. I thought if I kept running, if I buried those feelings deep enough, I could pretend they didn't exist. But Leah, she couldn't take it anymore." Maya's voice broke, her hands trembling as she spoke. She ended her life because of me, because I couldn't give her what she needed. And now I can't escape it. Everywhere I go, I see her. Every time I close my eyes, I hear her voice." Eliza reached out, gently placing her hand over Maya's. "Maya, you didn't make her choices. You loved her in the way you could, even if it wasn't perfect. What happened wasn't your fault." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes, but she shook her head. "You don't understand. I failed her. I should have been there. I should have stayed." Eliza squeezed Maya's hand, her eyes filled with compassion. It's not about what you should have done. It's about what you're going to do now. You can't keep running, Maya. You deserve to heal. You deserve to be free. The words hung in the air, heavy and real. Maya had been running for so long, but for the first time she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she could stop. A silence fell between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that felt safe, like the space between breaths. Maya looked at Eliza, really looked at her, and for the first time she felt something shift. It wasn't the overwhelming love she had felt for Leah, but it was something. A quiet, gentle connection that whispered of possibility. I don't know if I'm ready, Maya admitted softly. You don't have to be, Eliza said, her voice steady. But when you are, I'll be here. The fire crackled in the hearth as they sat together, hands intertwined, the shadows of the past still lingering but no longer as suffocating. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt like maybe she didn't have to run anymore. Maybe, here in Bramble Creek, she could finally begin to heal. Over the next few weeks, Maya and Eliza fell into an unspoken rhythm. The nights were growing longer as the Oregon winter approached, and the air turned crisp with a promise of snow. They still met for their walks in the woods, often in companionable silence, the quiet between them deep and comforting. Maya felt herself letting go, slowly, like a knot in her chest was beginning to loosen. One evening, after they returned from one of their walks, Eliza lingered by the door of Maya's cabin. It had become a habit for them to say their goodbyes there, but this time Eliza hesitated. Would you like to come in? Maya asked, surprising even herself with the question. Eliza smiled softly. I'd love to. They sat in the living room, the fire crackling again, casting its warm light over the room. Maya poured them both tea, her hand steady but her heart racing slightly. Eliza seemed to sense the shift in the air between them. She placed her hand on Maya's, a gesture that had become familiar, grounding. You don't have to be afraid, you know, Eliza said quietly, her eyes gentle. Maya nodded, her throat tight. I know. She took a breath, her eyes focusing on the flames. It's just, Leah was everything to me. I don't want to forget her. But I'm afraid that moving on means leaving her behind. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. Eliza nodded, her gaze never leaving Maya's. You don't have to forget her. Love doesn't disappear just because someone's gone. She'll always be a part of you. Maya blinked, fighting back the tears that welled up in her eyes. I'm scared. I've carried this guilt for so long. I don't even know who I am without it. You're more than your pain, Eliza said softly. You're allowed to heal, Maya. You're allowed to live again. The vulnerability in Eliza's words struck something deep within Maya. She had been trapped in her grief, her guilt, and now she realized that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to carry it alone. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the possibility of something new. Something not bound by the past, but something that could grow alongside it. Eliza seemed to sense the shift in Maya's heart. She didn't push. She simply stayed, her presence a quiet reassurance. Over time, the walls Maya had built around her heart began to crumble. Little by little, she realized she wasn't betraying Leah by letting someone new into her life. She was honoring her by living, by allowing herself to love again. As winter set in, Bramble Creek was blanketed in snow. The woods, usually full of life and movement, became still, the world hushed by the falling flakes. Maya found comfort in the quiet of the season, the way the snow muffled everything, giving her space to reflect. One afternoon, as the first snowstorm of the season was building, Maya and Eliza sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching the snow drift down in lazy spirals. The cold air stung their faces, but neither of them seemed to mind. "I was thinking about something," Maya said, breaking the peaceful silence. Eliza glanced over at her, eyebrows raised. "What's that?" "About staying," Maya continued, her voice thoughtful. "I've been running for so long, but I don't want to run anymore. Not from this. Not from you." Eliza's expression softened, and she reached out to take Maya's hand in her own. "I'm glad to hear that. I'm not going anywhere, Maya. Not unless you want me to." Maya smiled, feeling a warmth bloom in her chest, different from the fire or the tea. It was something new, something fragile but real. "I think I want you to stay." The snow began to fall harder, the wind picking up as the storm rolled in. But they remained there on the porch, huddled close, watching the world around them transform. As the months passed, the winter gave way to a blossoming spring, and with it Maya found herself growing too. The memories of Leah were still there, as vivid and raw as ever, but they no longer held the same crushing weight. Instead, they became a part of her story, a chapter she could look back on without losing herself in it. Maya found herself laughing again, the sound of it surprising her at first. She hadn't realized how much she had missed the simple joy of laughing, of sharing moments of lightness with someone who understood. Eliza was a steady presence, never pushing too hard, never asking for more than Maya could give. And in that gentle understanding, Maya found herself opening up in ways she hadn't thought possible. One day, as they walked along the now thawing creek, Maya stopped mid-step, turning to face Eliza. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady, "for everything, for being patient with me, for showing me that I could feel this way again." Eliza smiled, her eyes soft and warm. "You don't have to thank me, Maya. I'm just happy to be here with you." They stood there for a moment, the creek babbling in the background, the air filled with the scent of earth and new growth. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Maya felt at peace. "I don't know what's next," Maya admitted, her heart open and raw. "But I know I'm not afraid anymore." Eliza took a step closer, her hand finding Maya's. "That's all that matters." And in that moment, standing by the creek with Eliza at her side, Maya realized that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning to carry the past with grace, allowing space for new beginnings while honoring the love that had once been. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt free.